Having an exceptional relationship with your spouse affects every single aspect of your life and is crucial for experiencing your dream life together. I'm Rob Murgatroyd.
And I'm Kim Murgatroyd. Listen in on our honest, filter-free conversations as we navigate life and business together without killing each other.
You'll learn by osmosis how to transform the friction you feel in your relationship into a purposeful foundation that will allow you to grow together.
Welcome to the Friday Podcast.
Kimberly, getting younger every single day. How are you this morning?
Younger.
You're younger.
I'm younger.
Are you feeling younger? How old do you feel?
Depends on the day. Today, I feel 35. I feel almost a decade younger. I feel spry. I spent my morning with Sophia making a dragon hand puppet. I got a good night's sleep.
How old do you feel mentally versus physically?
I sort of feel in the same ballpark, to be honest. I don't feel like I'm losing my mental capabilities. I can't remember shit on any day. So I feel like that's just par for the course in my brain. But yeah, I think I probably feel the same age. I think men are like, oh, I feel 16 in my brain. Although there are times that I feel 16 in my brain too, usually during perverted jokes. But I don't know. I don't know how to answer that.
It's a tricky question.
I think men are obsessed with this. I think men are like, but mentally, I feel like I'm still 16, and I have all these things.
Who talks? I don't understand.
I don't know.
Who is talking like this?
Well, it's men.
It's a man voice.
Yeah.
I would say...
You feel 16. I know.
I don't feel 16. I feel 21. But the problem is that I look at myself in the mirror and I look 101.
No, stop it.
This is the problem. All right. So listen, I want to talk about aging for a little bit. And I don't care if you're 30, 40, 50, or 60. It's all going to be the same thing. Because I hear it with my 30-year-old coaching clients and I hear it with my 60-year-old coaching clients. It's the same thing. There's a point where you feel like, it's always comical to me when I have a 30-year-old who says to me, but don't you think I'm too old? Right. I'm like, too fucking old? I have underwear older than you. What are you talking about?
I have jeans their age.
But really, and it makes you think, and I remember for sure that there were parts of me, like I remember when I went to chiropractic school, I remember saying, when I get out, I'm going to be 32 years old. As if like, how in the world am I going to survive? This was like clear in my mind. Like that was an old man. And do I want to take all of these years? Do I want to give up all of these years to be 32 years old when I come out? I can remember that viscerally.
Well,
like
it's
today.
Interesting because we have a friend here in Florence whose mother became a doctor in her 40s. Like that's fascinating to me. And so I think what we're gonna talk about today is a lot of people feel that they're too old to start something new. Maybe it's a new business. Maybe you think you're too old to start to move. Like we picked up, I'm in my 40s, Rob's in his 50s, and we picked up and moved our family across the world. And a lot of people would be like, you know what? I'm settled. I have my network here. I know where the grocery store is. Like there's comfort in that, but I think they're scared to take a leap to something different. Can I give you something interesting before we kick this off? So I was prepping for this show and you read a lot about brain health these days because we are living longer. We are living, I want to say healthier longer, but probably
we're actually not
addicted to medicine
this
longer.
Is, by the way, random note.
Yeah.
This is the second year in a row that our longevity has decreased, the second year in a row. But here's the thing. People will argue that it was COVID. Those numbers were already on the decline pre-COVID. So we're actually living less.
Okay, so we're living less. When I say we're living longer, I think about my grandmother. I remember when my grandmother turned 60, okay? She had the grandma hair, the short hair. She slept in rollers the night before, and it was gray, and she brushed it out, and she had the grandma, like everything was grandma about her. You are 3 years and 2 months away from that age, and you're not even close. So in my head, when I say we're living longer, first of all, she died at 67. Hopefully that's not your path. I think you're going to live much longer than that. I think of that generation, my grandmother's generation, and what it looked like versus today's 60 and 70-year-olds and how long they're living. So in my head, I'm not saying like that the current longevity. I just feel like.
Did you ever see the meme with the Golden Girls where they showed what their actual ages are?
And then,
it's crazy.
Right. And then they show Martha Stewart on the cover of Sports Illustrated.
It's like, what, 80?
Yeah. Like it looks very different than Blanche. So the point, though, that I'm making is, let's say my grandma's generation and our generation, we're living longer, in quotes, okay? We're living younger. I think the average 6-year-old looks different now than it did then. But also, we're dealing with a lot of age-related brain issues, Alzheimer's. And of course, now they're finding nutrition is obviously a big culprit in that. But there's another thing. So this goes back to what we're talking about today. We're too old to start something. So there's so many studies and research that show that if you learn new things after the age of 30, 40, 50, if you continue to learn new things, you are literally protecting your brain against degeneration and Alzheimer's. And a lot of people don't take the time to learn new things as they get older. They're stuck in their pattern and in what they do. And that's obviously not your lane because you are constantly learning new things. And I think as you use the brain to, like right now, we're both learning Italian. I think that is going to have massive health benefits in our brain because we are using parts of our brain and making parts of it fire on a daily basis it's working the muscle. So I think cognitively, as we age, if we can stop being scared of learning new things, if we can be willing to get out of our comfort zone as an older adult, I think that your brain health will improve. I think your mood improves, especially like hands-on things. I was writing a blog yesterday and I was doing research for this blog. It was on travel and immersive travel versus observational travel. So for me, observational travel is like where the person's walking with the flag and there's a big tour group behind them and they're looking at the Duomo and listening to someone drown on about all of the facts about the Duomo and they're observing it versus climbing the stairs to the top, seeing the walls from the inside. That's hands-on. That's not observational. And the people that learn in a more hands-on way, they improve their happiness. They have less depression. They have more life fulfillment. Like all of these tiny things add up. So if you take that same idea and you say, okay, so in your 40s, 50s, 60s, if you learn new things hands-on, your hands are in the clay, you become a sculptor, all the things you do, Rob, like in your 40s or whatever, you became a DJ, you had to learn something new, you're hands-on. I think those things are going to be so beneficial to the aging mind and to the joy that's found in aging as well.
Yeah, and I think you have to ask yourself, it's interesting, right? Because if I look now, and I always fight this, yes, I made a decision in my mid-40s. I wanted to learn how to become a DJ, did that, but I still battled it going, the fuck am I out of my mind? I'm 45 years old. Like, this is the stupidest thing in the world. So I still battle it, right? And then when we moved to California and I was 50, I was like, I want to learn surfing. That was a little riskier because that one involved sharks. But I still battled. And what comes with it is, like, I remember there were times when I would be surfing with, let's say we did like a group class and there were people in their 20s.
Yeah.
And I didn't look like them. I didn't swim like them.
You didn't pop up like them.
I didn't pop up like them. And I had to every weekend take my surfboard, put it in the backyard. And if you remember, but actually rehearse popping up.
I think we call it practice.
Thank you.
Unless it was a Broadway show. I think one.
Okay, Rob, 3, 2, 1, cue the music, pop up. Yeah. So I had to do that. Okay. So what I want to talk about today is whatever age you are, let's say that you're 40 years old and you're thinking, I want to get out of doing what I'm doing, or I want to begin a new hobby, or I want to start a new business, whatever it is. and you say to yourself, I'm too old, right? Because that question is going to come up at some point. It's going to come up after you're 30 years old. Invariably, when you look back 10 years later, you will look back and say to yourself, why the fuck didn't I do this? Like, I had energy, I had passion, I had the joy for it, I had help, somebody could have helped me with it. And then you have the same question. And then you're like, but now I'm 50, but now I'm 60. So it's never going to stop. You're always going to do it. And I want to take a second to mention this idea, which is around this subject, but I think directly related. A lot of times, me included, you're looking for, and I've done this with so many different things, right? Tell me exactly how to be a great DJ. Tell me exactly how to be a great surfer. Tell me exactly how to be a great writer. And the answer for all of these things is the exact same. You want to surf? Surf. You want to write? Mm-hmm. Write.
Start.
You want to be a DJ? Hit the play button. In every single case, because it is in the mistakes that you make 1,000 times when you're trying to put two songs on top of each other, and instead of the beats blending, it sounds like a toddler with a metal pot and a wooden spoon. You learn and you go, oh, that wasn't right. And then, this sort of enters into Malcolm Gladwell's 10,000 hour principle. It's not just the fact that you log 10,000 hours. It's that you have 10,000 hours of mistakes. And each one of those mistakes moves you a little bit closer to it. So I think they're directly tied to each other. And I also think it's very easy when you start to hit 40s, 50s, and I'll soon find out 60s, to allow gravity to take over and allow yourself to go, my boobs are not where they once were. My brain is not where they once were. My chest is now, I look like a set of drawers that are opening as we get lower. But then you can also look to people like Colonel Sanders started Kentucky Fried Chicken at 62, and Ray Kroc started McDonald's at 52, and Julia Childs started her cooking show at 50, and Vera Wang started at 40, and Samuel Jackson started at 43.
Well, and then you got the Harry Potter one. Like, she was for sure older when she started too. You know what I think? Here's what I think. I think that the best is yet to come. I think instead of focusing on I'm too old, I think you can change that mantra to the best is yet to come. Because, Rob, you're on the verge of becoming Frances Mays. I think in the same age that she became this well-known best-selling author. I think she wrote her book at the same age, but I feel like that was the case. And it's so interesting to me that you can have whatever opinion you want. You can walk around going, I'm not a spring chicken, or you can walk around and going, the best is yet to come. Because all of these years, think about the 5 decades of life experience, life moments, changes in everything that you have, that you're pouring into this book that you wrote. If it was a young person's game, like, I don't want to read a memoir of a 20-year-old unless they did something really freaking cool by the time they were 20. Like, there's no life lived there.
They actually don't have a lot to say about a lot of things. They may be really good at knowing how to do a TikTok or something like that because it's in their world. But in terms of dispensing information, it's no knock to 20-year-olds. They just haven't lived enough.
They can dispense information to teenagers because they've lived that portion. But my point is, as you get older, if you continue to grow, if you continue to learn, if you continue to experience new things, I think you just have so much more depth to take into the next idea, to take into the next passion, to even start something new. And what's really interesting, right, is, so let's call it, you got 0 to 30. 30 to 50 is when people start doing the I'm too old, maybe 30 to 60, I'm too old to start something new. This old dog can't do a new trick. All these things, right? Not a spring chicken. But then once you hit 70, I feel like middle fingers are in the air and you just do what you want to do. There is a grandma right now on TikTok. I think she has like 6 million followers, and she is just the funniest woman. She talks about bad dates she goes on. She's like, come check out my grave, because she's in her 90s. I think she's 96 years old, and she's getting brand deals on TikTok. Like, you can't make this up, because you hit a point I think where you're just like, I'm going to say what I want to say. I'm going to do what I want to do. I'm going to take the leap if I want to. And why are we waiting until our 70s to do that?
Okay, so you have a really good point, and I think there's another part to this point. My grandmother did not have the personality, even if the technology was there like TikTok, to ever do something like that, right? I think that you have to draw a line in the sands and say, I am not going to allow the typical default of aging to come in. I'm not going to start sitting around with old men talking about Viagra.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not going to get the cane.
You're not going to complain about every technological advance that comes out. How do you work this thing?
How do you work this thing, right? And it's really, it's insidious. It happens so fucking slowly where all of a sudden it starts with, where's my reading glasses? And then before you know it, you're like, fucking technology. And you hit that point. And I think you really have to draw a line in the sand and say, I'm not going to do that. And I am not going to, in air quotes here, get old. Who do you look to at your age now that you say is someone that is, I'll give you some words to illustrate the point, defying gravity with age, is young at heart, has a spirit, and just seems like they're just not getting old. And when you see them, you know they are getting old, but when you see them, they're inspirational to you because you're like, I can't fucking believe it. Who do you have in the girl world that would hit that criteria, if anybody?
The first person that popped into my mind is you, to be honest.
In the girl world.
No, I know. I understand. Look, aging,
I
whether
thought you
you're
were calling me a girl.
no, whether you're a guy or a girl, aging is aging, right? So I look at how you're you're taking preventative measures against mobility decline, against cognitive decline, against health decline, against all of those things. You're taking such a preventative role in this that it's inspiring, honestly. I think that here's right now who inspires me. When I walk down the street here in Italy and I see a grandma who for sure is north of the wall. She's north of 85. Has to be. Often by herself or possibly with like her daughter or someone or a niece or someone that's helping her, right? Because she's definitely older. But she is dressed beautifully. She has her hair done. She has her lipstick on and she's on her way to the market to get whatever she wants to get, as slow as she's going, but she's there. She woke up, she took the effort, and she's still living her life. Bonus points when I see that same grandma having a spritz. Like, that's bonus points. When I see her doing
because it's representative of living.
Because it's representative of living. That's why I really love the Blue Zone idea. And I really loved Zach. What's the one that was hot in High School Musical? And then
he's hot again.
Then he didn't, and then he went not hot.
I almost said Galifianakis.
I know,
but
it's not, definitely not that one.
Efron.
Zac Efron. When he did that special on Sardinia and he went to a village in Sardinia inside, like in the middle of the island where people live over 100 years old. And he met with a guy who every day gets up and he puts on a suit and he puts on his scarf because Copodaria here, you can't mess with getting the wind on the neck or you die. Puts his scarf on and they go for a walk. And there was so many moments with Zach, but there was a moment where this old man was going up the steps and the steps you have to imagine these villages are 1,000 years old. So the steps are really big and they're stone. And this old man is going up the steps and he looks back at Zach. He's like, you okay? And like Zach's second wind. Okay. And this guy's 104.
Yeah.
And Zach's like, okay, so where are we going? He's like, on our way to the bar to have some wine. And Zach's like, I'm gonna drink, and what am I doing? I don't eat pasta. I don't drink. I can't touch bread.
It really shook his mental furniture.
It did. And so people like that still have the zest for life. Like, even though my grandmother passed young, she had a zest for life. She threw New Year's Eve parties. Even if they didn't move and they just watched Dick Clark, like her and her little friends, they played cards, they had a couple drinks. and they watched Dick Clark, but she was still doing it. And people that are still living life older, I think are super inspiring to me. But more than that, people that are tackling new things. And I don't like, I go back to Martha Stewart. I've never been a Martha Stewart fan, but this woman who God knows has reinvented herself more than Madonna, put her ass on a cover of a Sports Illustrated. Right now, if Sports Illustrated came to me, I would say I am too damn old to be on your cover. But
she's actually a really good example because, we all remember, her insider trading scandal where she went to jail and handled that with such elegance. She owned it. She's like, okay, I went to jail. And then went on and started like doing television shows with Snoop Dogg and then went on the cover of she didn't
let any of these things define her or stop her.
Yeah, both, right? Mm-hmm. And both of those things are so critical because we think, regret weighs tons. It really does. And it's a double-edged sword. We look back on things that we didn't do and feel incredibly regretful and carry guilt forward, and then it freezes us. Or the other way around, we look at the late, great, I was super sick. I was the athlete. I was the business titan. And you don't want to start something else because you were so successful with what you did that starting as a beginner again feels so daunting and your identity gets fucked up. So there's a lot of things. The guy that comes to mind for me, or the person that comes to mind for me, is really one of the guys in our community here. We were talking about health, and he's into doing Tai Chi in the morning. And he's probably about my age. Actually, he's a little older than me. And he was telling me that he learned most of it from his dad. And as he was talking, I was like, I think his father's still alive. I was like, your dad's still doing Tai Chi? He's like, he's getting lazy now, though. But yeah. And I was like, lazy? He's like, I said, so he's still alive? He's like, yeah. I said, how old is he? He goes, 98. I go, he's getting lazy? Like, how do you get lazy at 98? The fact that you're breathing.
Yeah.
He's like, no, he used to be riding his bicycle up hills. He said he's just going around the neighborhood now on the bicycle. I'm like, he's 98. What are you talking about? So much of this is intentional. The two guys that come to mind for me, the first one is, well, there's actually three, and they're all super famous. One is Tom Cruise. I think he's defying fucking gravity with...
I feel like he has some help defying that gravity. But...
I don't care what he's got. You can inject him with whatever you want and give him billions of dollars, and he's probably getting both.
Yeah.
He's still fucking Top Gun right now.
Yeah, doing his own stunts.
He's still fucking doing it. That's insane what that man is doing. I don't care how much money or how many chromosomes are getting injected in his eyeballs. That's the first one. The second one is the true version of this, who probably has a little bit of help as well, and that is Tom Brady. He is remarkable for being, I don't know exactly how old he is, certainly in his 40s.
He's in his 40s.
To be able to be that athletic and look that young, super intentional about what he's doing.
It's going to be really interesting.
After he quits, yeah.
I want to see.
In the decade after no sports.
3 to 5 years. I just want to see what that looks like because the amount of energy he's expelling, like, it's all about to shift. Like, this happens to a lot of college athletes, like collegiate athletes. They're super lean, they're super fit, and then you see them a decade later and it's Al Pacino. So, it's going to be interesting to see if Tom can maintain that without the high level sport that
it happens
doing.
Quick. I saw, how they do these Comic-Con events where people like sign the autographs when you were famous 20 years ago? One of the Supermen, I can't remember his name right now. He was the Superman for years. And I saw him. I was like, oh, God.
Yeah.
Like, what the hell happened? You were Superman. Okay. The third one for me is Rob Lowe. I am obsessed with this man. It is, I don't know what his age is. I think he's my age.
I think he's 60. I think he's a little older than you are.
He just had Sebastian Maniscalco on his show. Okay. And he does the show over Zoom, right?
59.
Okay. So he does the show over Zoom, and Sebastian goes, okay, this is how he started. He goes, what kind of cream are you putting on your face? I forget the interview with me. And every single interview he has, the person is spending 10 minutes going, how do you look like this? Okay. So we can put it into the category.
Well, you know who else is a really good example is Strauss Zelnick. You interviewed him. He's in his 60s.
Great example.
and he's super fit, looks great. He has a balanced life. He has a way he balances out his life. He's constantly taking on new projects, new things. And so we're talking about people who look good, but there's a correlation because they're also doing new things. Like Rob Lowe started a podcast in his 50s. Tom is doing Mission Impossible in his 60s. Like they're still doing it and they're still doing new and dangerous and crazy things. And that's the point of this. So not being afraid to start things as you get older, realizing that if you do learn new things, it's only going to help you and keep you young. Like, I think there is some truth, by the way. We had Sophia later in age, and I think there's for sure an element that she'll keep you young, because even for me, like today I had to sit and I made this craft with her for 2.5 hours. And there is an element of figuring it out and cutting and pasting and gluing and all of that, that I think these things keep you young and keep you active, if nothing else.
Yeah.
Right?
What's interesting is I'm reading along this subject. I just finished Peter Attia's book, Outlive, right? Do you know what the number one correlate to longevity is? With like, what is the one thing they can test on you to determine how fit you are and how long you'll live?
How fit you are? Your VO2 max?
No. Grip strength. The increased level of grip strength you have is the greatest predictor of health and longevity. Why? Peter Attia says, don't go out and get one of those Jack LaLanne things where you're doing this. It's not that. It's the fact that everything else is so fit.
Yeah.
Your shoulders, your arms, your lats, your chest, that your strength is there at scale. So when you are a fit person, you can pick things up with your hands, strong handshake, right? So that's one. The reverse, this one's fucking fascinating. If you have a big bone fracture, like a femur or a hip at 65 years old, the chance of you being dead within 1 year is 35%. It's not from the fall. It's from all of the long tail effects that happen as a result of it. You become, he used this example. He said, you can go out and spend 1 year in the gym, lifting weights, put on 10 pounds of muscle, and be strong as an ox. 10 days of bed rest can undo 1 year of fitness training. So the long tail effect of what happens when you fall because you're off balance, all of these things matter, right? So you look at a Tom Cruise and you're like, okay, he's doing these stunts. How many other things is he getting right to be able to do those stunts? How many other things is Rob, like he clearly has genetics. There's no question. If you look at his dad, he's just as beautiful as he is. So the genetics is there for sure. But he also is super fit. Like you can't deny that. The last part about Rob Lowe, if I can fangirl for one more second here, is when I listen to him talk, he sounds like a 16-year-old kid. He's like, dude, you have no idea how gnarly that was. And I'm like, he's fucking 60. Like he's 60 years old. He still sounds like he's in the Breakfast Club. Like nothing has fucking changed with this guy. That is a mental decision to hang out with young people, to keep working. He doesn't need to work anymore. He's got more movies under his belt than he's crazy rich. Loves it. He's in the mix of working really hard. The last example I'll give you is America's Dad. What's his name? The one that everybody loves, Tom Hanks. He's gotten in incredible shape. He is incredibly hardworking. So I think with all of this, you've got to make a decision that wherever you are in your life, that you're not going to let age stop you, because it's just a bullshit story that you made up in your mind. And if you're a man, if you can close your eyes and go, Rob Lowe, Tom Cruise, Tom Brady.
But and it's not, like we said, it's not just an appearance, right? Because there's doctors that help with that.
But here's the point with the appearance. The appearance is indicative of what you're doing to get that appearance. It's not like you can't, listen, if Tom Brady let himself go and Tom Cruise let himself go and Rob Lowe let himself go, they wouldn't look great. They look great because they didn't let themselves go.
No, I understand that. I'm just making the point because a lot of people believe that they're too old to start something, and that's really has nothing to do with what they look like. But it might be that, so there's a psychology component. So shifting, I'm too old to start something new. This old dog can't have a new trick, to the best is yet to come, or some version of that for you, right? So you have that mindset component of it. And then once you get the mindset component of it, and I can do whatever I want, doesn't matter my age, and you don't feel like that's a limiting belief anymore, then you have the physical component of it.
Correct.
And the physical component of it is what you're doing.
But it starts with the mindset. You're right. You have to look at it in that order.
You have to look at, because you're not going to do, like Rob wakes up every morning and does, if you watch my social media, sometimes I catch him in the act. He does these mobility exercises that look absolutely ridiculous and are hysterical, but it's how he's keeping himself together and keeping his body young, so he doesn't have those falls. So he doesn't have those injuries or those ailments every day, getting out of bed, oh, my back hurts, that kind of thing. And he's 56, and you're doing things like just your back pain, like level at 40, you used to complain about it all the time. Now at 56, approaching 57, I don't ever hear you talk about back pain because you're preventing it with these crazy looking exercises. So my point is, you got to get the mindset right and know that you're not going to allow the limiting belief of I'm too old for to creep in. Then you got to go to the next step, right? Which is, how do I prevent the things that take the old people out, right? The falls, the simple things. How do I prevent those simple things and put that prevention into place? And then I think having healthy aging role models, for me as a woman, I'm going to prefer to look at the role models that I don't think are nipping and tucking everything under the sun. I feel like Kate Hudson we're the same age. Maybe I'm a little older than her, I don't know, but I feel like she's going to age really well, and because she's taking care of herself from the inside out. And so I think having those healthy role models in your mind that work for you is another thing. But I think the biggest, like every freaking thing in life, the hardest part of it is the mindset.
Hardest part is the mindset. And I'll leave you with this. The journey of 1,000 steps starts with the first one. So wherever you are, whether it's physically you want to make a change, mentally you want to make a change, it's starting with that first step. Got anything else to add?
Nope.
That's it, everybody. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye. Hey, everybody, if you've ever thought about coming to hang out with Kim and I on one of our next Rob and Kim Italia events and you want to learn more, just click the Rob and Kim Italia link in the show notes and add your name and email, and we'll send you all the details as soon as they're available. We are obsessed with this country and how it affects you, and we want to share that magic of culture, food, wine, art, architecture, and some secret magic moments that we've cooked up with you. So be sure to add your name because these events sell out quickly.